Ernie asking, how long does it take to make a custom tartan from plans to finish? We've also had a few other questions about like the process that a custom tartan, how it gets from your head to finished product. I didn't know if Rocky, if you could take us through those kind of steps.
Sure. All right, custom tartan. Let's start with this. Here's the ground rules. Gonna make a custom tartan, and you want to register the tartan all the way through, your finished garment. So, step one, start looking, start recognizing, start critically looking at other tartans and figure out what kind of patterns you like. Do you like busier? Do you like simpler? Do you like having a border around a division like McDonald Clan Ranald, where there's a white stripe that kind of breaks up the sections? Do you want two main pivots where there's two stripes that are the pivot points? Or do you want something like Royal Stewart, where there's one pivot and then one big wide field of red? Start looking at tartans critically and figuring out which ones you like and try to assess why you like them. Next, find a tartan designer on a website that's free. They're all free. Save a bunch of different designs. Live with it for a bit. And all of that takes as much time as you want to take. So you can take 2 days or you can take weeks and obsess over it. Then you submit it to the tartan register. And by submitting it, it's going to be like 70 pounds, about $100 or so if you register it yourself. They're going to want to know the name that you want to call the tartan, the thread count, the reason, what colors you use, all that kind of stuff. When you give them money and say, here's my tartan, here's the design I want, go, they're going to take 2 weeks-ish. They're going to take that design, take the data you give them, the name, all that kind of stuff. They're going to make sure that it's you have the right to design it, the right to register it. You're not calling it like, the U.S. Army tartan when you have nothing to do with the U.S. Army. Or the American Express tartan where you're not a representative of American Express. They're going to make sure you're okay to do what you're doing. They're going to approve the name and make sure that the name isn't like a copyrighted name or anything like that. Then they're going to take the design itself and pass it off to tartan historians, Peter McDonald, people like that are all they do is, they're in this, they know everything, they're part of the Tartan Register, they're part of the Scottish Tartans Authority, they have a breadth of knowledge that is unparalleled in tartan, and they can say, okay, this design looks similar to this one. They're going to make sure it's an original design. Once they come back and say, yep, your design, it's original, and the name, the rationale, all that stuff is good, you're not designing something that's either explicit or untoward, or you're not designing a Nazi tartan or something crazy, they're going to approve it. Now, from approval, you go to have it woven. When you submit the tartan to have it woven, you give it to a company, i.e. USA Kilts, or someone like that. We take that design, the thread count, we send it off to the mill. The mill will say, here's a CAD drawing of the design, here's the thread colors we used, to get as close as we could to what the person wanted. What do you think? We send it back to the customer. The customer says, all the colors look great within the stock shade. Or they say, well, they're all good, but the green, I want a little bit more mint than the standard bottle green or whatever. So then they have to go back for a custom dye. Custom dye of a color is key here. Because if your tartan is stock shades, the mill, it's stock modern color palette, standard bottle green, standard navy, standard scarlet red, standard black, standard yellow, whatever. Then the mill likely has those colors in stock, ready to go, ready to weave. If they don't, then they have to go dye some samples of your mint green, spearmint specifically, my favorite mint. So they need spearmint green. Then they dye it, they send it to a dye house, have a few hanks of yarn dyed up, little lighter, a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. Maybe you get 3 samples. They send that to us, we send it to the customer. All of this takes time. The customer has to approve the final thread color for the mint, then you go back to the mill. Once that is approved, and that could take, keep in mind, custom dye at a dye house in Scotland, plus travel time to the mill, plus travel time to me, plus travel time to you. So if you're plan for a few weeks, if you need a custom color, because you want to make sure if it's a collegiate tartan, and you need to match crimson red, roll tide. So if you need to match a specific color for a specific college, university, team, whatever, then you need to make sure that it's dead on. It's going to take more time. Once the tartan is approved and the shades are approved by you, the customer, then you're looking at the time it takes for the mill to get the yarns in, or if they're stock, and then put it on the production schedule for them to weave it up. Once it's woven, then it has to go to the finisher, then it has to get finished, treated, all that kind of stuff. Once it's done being finished, then it gets sent back to the mill. Then the mill actually puts it on a light board, makes sure they're taking care of any flaws, any flubs in the fabric, any slubs, or on the face of the fabric. They push them through to the back side. If it needs any little treatments, great. They make it perfect for you, perfect for the kilt. Then, if you're getting a kilt, then it goes into production for a kilt, and that takes several weeks for it to work its way through the production schedule. All being told, everything soup to nuts. Sorry, it's a long answer, but you asked a long question. It could take as little as 12 weeks for a custom weave. If you're quick designing, you're choosing stock colors, the mill has a reasonably short queue, and your kilt maker has a reasonably short queue once the fabric gets in. 10 to 12 weeks on the very short end, 16 to 20 weeks on the high end for how long it's going to take. If it's going to take you 2 weeks to get the design down, 2 to 3 weeks to get the actual colors dialed in, 8 to 10, some mills actually are 12 to 14 weeks for weaving, and then another 2 to 3 weeks for the production of the kilt. So if you're going to do something custom, allow time. Don't rush it. You're going to spend a lot of money. A custom kilt is going to be anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500, depending on all the bells and whistles, how much cloth you're getting, all that kind of stuff. So don't rush it. You don't want to screw up with $1,000 to $1,500. You want to make sure you're getting exactly what you want. So make sure you give yourself the time. If it's a wedding tartan, schedule backwards. If the wedding is June 30th, make sure you have everything started like the beginning of the year, just to give yourself enough time for hiccups. Mr. Eric, any thoughts to add to the process?
No, I think the being patient is the single most important factor.
Yeah.
Now that the stock shades, sometimes you will be surprised that there is a stock shade which is very close to what you want. And I've seen you do this, Rocky, sometimes with consultations, that they'll give you like 3 or 4 different greens that are stock, and it may be that it's not hard to get a green. Excuse me while I whip this out. You have a visual aid here. All right. Yeah, so don't assume you're going to have to go with a custom color. There's actually a fair amount of variety in the stock shades because they've done this a million times before. But we have experience where people get very, very, very picky. How often do people want a custom dyed yarn in your experience with doing custom tartans?
How often do people want it, or how often do they get it? Because the main difference is price. When you're looking at a custom dyed yarn, let's say you're getting a short run, just enough for 1 kilt or 2 kilts or something like that, like a wedding party or something like that. A custom dyed yarn, every custom color will add about $100 to the cost of the kilt, or a couple kilts. Therefore, a lot of people, when they come to us and say, okay, I want to do a custom run, here's my tartan, I designed it from scratch, it looks great, I want this mint green. If you need a particular shade of green that isn't in the actual design or in the stock shades, then what's going to happen is your price is going to go up by about $100. I am going to go back to you and say, hey, I can do it. It's going to add X amount of dollars. When it does that, I'd say about half the people say, let me look at the stock shades again and see if something's close enough.
Right.
Occasionally, if it must be a specific shade, then that's fine. They'll end up going back and saying, okay, nope, it has to be this, go, and then we can get it custom dyed. But, you know, I'd say about half the time people end up trying to lean towards a custom or a custom one. The other half the time they just kind of go back and say, this one's close enough. So what do you think? Would you ever take the step to design your own tartan? If you want to see a video we did on what makes a good tartan, check out this video over here. If you want to see an entire playlist where we talk about different tartans, check out this playlist down here.